Good morning. Welcome back to the project. This week, we're trying to get the house ready to start our electrical work. HVAC is basically done, plumbing's basically done, so electrical is the last thing we need to do, then we're off to the races. Quick recap, I bought my first home almost 11 months ago, an 1857 Philadelphia row home that was riddled with termite damage. First, we removed this third floor brick wall. Then we had to demolish the middle of the house full of rotten 175-year-old timbers. I don't know where my house went. Through the winter, we built the house back bigger and better with a third floor addition. Mainly before we do electrical, we have some walls to fur out. This wall is a great example. And to fur out that wall, we need to get rid of the vestibule because this wall is all going to be just continuous studs against the brick with drywall over top of that. And the reason we need to fur it out is one, for insulation, because this wall is just a single width of brick, so it's not doing much keeping the outside from coming in. And also building this out with wood studs and drywall gives us a cavity that we can run our electrical in. First step here is just to make some room. One of the very nice things about this demo project, I have my dad's truck for the week, so I have that parked outside. For the first time ever, we don't need to throw this all in the backyard and then haul it out later. We can just get rid of it now, which is incredible. This old trim is just obliterated by termites. You can see all these little tunnels that were all through the trim and also all through the supporting framing. And this is a big reason why we got to tear it out. But also, I think it'll make the living room feel a little brighter and feel a little more spacious. I wasn't getting very far, it's just the hammer and crowbar, so got to bring out the heavier machinery. I'm gonna take care of this plaster ceiling next to make sure it doesn't fall on my head. Also protect this door because I want to keep it, and I'll protect it with another door. Well, that'll do something. All right, that'll do. All right, no damage to the front door. Now I gotta clear this out to even be able to open the door. Oh. All right, ready for round two. Oh, look how chewed up that stud is. Quite a sweaty job, but it's all done. Mostly I like just having the continuous ceiling rafters visible rather than kind of like bumping into that vestibule. And yeah, I like it. Makes it a lot brighter in here. I pulled up a lot of the nails that were holding all that framing in, and we got the truck nice and filled up back there. There it is, vestibule disposed of. Little Home Depot run. And there's a car behind me, gotta unload quick. Man, unloading material. It's never easy on a small street. I'll organize them later. Oh, I gotta move the car. Birds are chirping. I love the ambient noises in this backyard. Doesn't feel like a city at all. So we're gonna make some progress on the waste pile in the backyard. Let's get to it. All right, well that's about one load. Also, while I was loading up, my neighbor gave me some old doors. Let me show you. They've been sitting in the basement for a while, so they're not perfect, but pretty nice. I don't know if I'm gonna use them as doors because they're a little narrow, but even putting them up on the wall, like a wainscoting or on the ceiling somewhere, who knows? I just love this old woodwork. I mean, probably dates back to like 1850. Why not keep it? In the back is the other place we need to start furring out walls. Again, because it's all masonry. We need to fur out this wall with 2x4s and the back wall. And I think we're gonna keep this wall as exposed brick or something, but just keep it masonry. Little change of scenery for you. Here we are at my desk setup where I do all my editing and a lot of my creative work and design work. And as a designer, I love to fill my life with intentionally designed objects. That's why I'm excited to talk about the sponsor of this video, Novium. Novium creates high-end and innovative products, and the Hover Pen Interstellar is no exception. This is one of the coolest pens that I've ever seen, and as someone who loves to sketch to explore ideas, a quality pen that also is a piece of art on my desk is super cool. And it's inspired by aircraft design using aircraft grade aluminum. The Hover Pen Interstellar comes in this incredibly designed packaging. Every aspect of this pen is finely considered, and immediately you can notice that, well, of course it's hovering and it's using magnets, so there's no electricity required. And the little details like the tilt of the pen when it's on its dock is referencing the Earth's tilt at 23.5 degrees. There's also a premium version of the pen that comes with a meteorite embedded in the tip that's older than the Earth itself, and it's probably the oldest object that you'll ever touch. The Hover Pen Interstellar is so cool, in fact, that it received the Time Award of one of the best inventions of 2022. And for those of you that enjoy fountain pens, they also have the Hover Pen Future that has a more dramatic 60-degree tilt, and it also has interchangeable tips with a fountain pen or a rollerball tip. Both of these pens also come in a range of colors so they can match any desk setup. Again, because of how incredibly designed the packaging is for these pens, they make for great gifts because there's just a wow factor when you open the box and you see something unlike anything you've ever seen. When you're ready to pick up yours, you can use my code HYTHA to get 15% off for the next 48 hours and 10% after that. And also there's free international shipping to most countries. Thanks again to Novium for sponsoring this week's video. We got a lot of this done yesterday. I have to start out with a quick task to finish up this top plate. And one note about this framing, this is just furring to hold drywall, and I'm gonna put in some rigid foam insulation in the gaps. But one thing I've noticed when you frame flat like this, the 2x4s really want to bow. So I think at some point I want to shim back here, maybe with just some old shingles, just something that's not gonna rot like wood if it's touching the brick. And then I can actually screw this into the shim and into the brick to hold these walls a little tighter. But the gap is very intentional because I don't want this lumber touching the brick wall, which is going to absorb moisture and then would rot this wall. I want to make sure that cavity stays intact. All right. That wall is more or less complete. Mentioned it a couple times, but on this back wall, eventually I want to take all this out and put a big sliding glass door. So I'm not super critical about how I frame out this door and window because I'm expecting to redo it later anyway. But I'm gonna do the best I can. Every time this door closes, stuff falls down. So anything that's very loose, let's just get rid of it. All right. Well, the rest of that's just going to be covered up. So this joist here, or ceiling rafter, is really bad with the termite damage. It's kind of crushed on that end. It gets better over here, but it's also just kind of weird framing because this goes into what looks like used to be a little fireplace chimney thing. And I just need to get, I think, some more lumber right there. So I have, luckily, one 2x6 left that's long enough. And I think we're gonna try to get that in. 2x6 isn't much, but you know, for one, there's not any more room. And I'm thinking of putting it up on the right, and it'll be on this stud, and then secure it over there to the header. You know, it'd probably be better to take this out and replace it entirely, but that just seems tricky to support the roof in the meantime. So we're just gonna sister it. There we go. There we go. I pre-drilled some holes to kind of countersink these lag screws so that they penetrate deeper into the back 2x6. These should do a good job at sucking the two together, but let's see how it goes. Just get one nail in it. Got some remnants of old electrical, and I just cut the supply to this, so you got to get this out of the way. This thing is really in there, isn't it? There we go. Well, it's not perfect, but it's done. There's some weird conditions over there, weird condition over there. You know, but I'm doing the best I can. And I really do think that this roof, if I can afford it later, I think I'm gonna wanna just redo it all, because the problem is it's an unvented roof, and once I put insulation up there, like, it's probably gonna rot away. I'm gonna intentionally not put light fixtures up in the ceiling to try to keep the air seal so you don't have, you know, that cold air coming up and meeting with a hot roof deck in the summer and condensing and moisture. And maybe I'll also use rock wool insulation so that it's moisture resistant and breathable. But yeah, in the future, I would love to do something cool. I'd love to do a skylight. I'd love to explore my options. For now, I think I'm just gonna leave it. Hopefully the inspector doesn't mind this weird condition over there where there used to be a chimney. The next order of business is going to be to frame up this wall in a very similar way to the back. And one thing I want to do before I do this is take out a couple bricks at the very top of this wall. And I'm going to replace the bricks with the fire foam. But the reason I need to get rid of them, if we head upstairs, when I very first visited this house, I noticed that there's a hump in the floor right here. It's pretty hard to show on camera. But the reason for this little hump, which is only on this side of the wall, is because that's right where the masonry wall is. We've talked about it before, but these wood joists cantilever over the alley, and this is a brick wall in the middle of the alley. Basically, I need to get those bricks out because they're pushing the floor up. And I think the reason is because these joists have settled a little bit into the brick pockets and just moved around, and they pack the masonry tight. And it's pushing things up. Also, the masonry shouldn't be in contact with the bottom of the flooring here. So getting rid of some bricks will solve a couple problems. You can actually see here why it's not a bump on this part of the floor. There's a little bit of a gap between the brick and the wood, whereas over here, the brick is going all the way up to that wood floor. It's always easier said than done doing a task like this. All the bricks are out, and now I'm hoping that I can just hammer this floor down, basically, and I felt the void above the joist to the bottom of the floor, so I know there's nothing in between. We use this board to distribute, but you can see by the rock of this board how this is sitting high. It's a whole lot better, but not quite there. That void closed up, so I think this might be as good as we're gonna get it. Got some old radiator pipes here that were just covered by the ceiling, so they didn't come out earlier. And I think I'm gonna need to cut definitely at least this one. Let me try a little hammering and wiggling before cutting. Yeah, it's kind of blocked into the floor up there. It's like impossible Tetris. Yeah, the other option here is to cut up the floor, patch it back in. Honestly, that might be the best option because there's already holes in the floor that should be patched. So we're gonna do that. Should have checked up here before. I was wondering how they got it in, and you can see they just took up these floorboards. So I can get that up pretty easily. Yeah, these boards are real loose. All right, get that from below. Oh, one pipe safely extracted and 2 pipes extracted. Whew, a lot of work before before even starting the real work. More work before we start framing. We gotta clear out all this material, find somewhere to put it, probably right over here, and sweep up. Oh, this stuff's heavy. Now for the big stuff. Okay. Oh, man, I am starting to miss the winter a little bit. I should probably mention at this point, it's a historic heat wave here on the East Coast, and high humidity, high temperatures, and just in a dusty house. I was working real slow and drinking as much water as I could to try to stay sane in here. To be consistent, you probably better get this plaster off the wall. That'll do it. Another quick task I created for myself. I'm gonna do this masonry. It'll be easier to do it now before there's studs in the way. So I got some mortar mixed up, got some bricks ready. Just dumped some water on this to get it wet. I was in pretty rough shape by this point. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. I had earplugs in. I had all the PPE on. Just felt like I was suffocating, especially when working alone. It's important to know your limits and take breaks when you need them. Gonna clean it up a little bit. It's not pretty, but it'll do. My plan here is to just start the wall adjacent to this baseboard, which should give me a pretty nice airspace between the brick and the wood, and it also gives me a nice place to secure the wood. Might be a little bit bigger of a cavity than I'd like. After a little bit of thinking, rather than going the easy route, I think I'm gonna take the baseboard out. And part of the reason is because the wall isn't quite plumb. It's leaning out an inch or an inch. The gap even bigger, you wanna get it bottom here. So a little bit more. All right. A little bit of termite damage on the back of this baseboard too, which is not surprising. This is what happens when you have wood touching brick and an alleyway that drains water for 150 years. The whole edge of this floorboard is all rotted out. And I checked the joists that are pocketed into this wall, and surprisingly they've held up, but seeing all this rot definitely is scary for the state of those joists. You know, we've loaded up this floor quite a bit, and the joists haven't seemed to deflect or anything. But I'm digging around looking for the joist, and I'm not seeing it, so the top of the joist might be rotted too. Yeah, I think is this a joist here? Yep. Yeah, just the top of this is pretty rotted. Yeah, that feels like the joist. And it's all mushy, that's not good. Well, it's the end of the day. We didn't get to framing, but I just spent a lot of time vacuuming and cutting out rot and investigating this condition, which is the worst over here where I removed a floorboard. And it's kind of inevitable. I already mentioned it, but there's the alley on the other side, water drains down, all this gets wet. And that's a big reason why, you know, I wanted to buy the house next door. I don't know that I can afford it. We'll see how that shakes out. But whoever buys it, I'm going to convince them to make all the drainage go that way, have a drain, and keep all this dry, because it just wreaks havoc on the wood down here. This is maybe the worst, where we lost about half of the joist, and you can reach all the way down. It's kind of scary. And the bottom of it doesn't
doesn't feel great. You can see it still has, almost 4 inches of bearing. So I'm not, I don't think it's going to collapse, but I really want to stop the moisture and stop the process. Here, the end is a little damaged. The side feels fine there. And all the way along, there's some that are better, some that are worse. This one's intact, and the end one is pretty mangled because it has 2 sides of exposure. Yeah, I don't think there's really anything to do about it. The floor feels solid. It's just try to prevent that rot in the future.